Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to begin by welcoming directors, all of you who are joining us online. It is always a pleasure to host the Toronto Seniors Housing Corporation meeting. My name is Farid Amin, and I have the privilege of chairing this board. Today is Tuesday, April the 28th. So once again, welcome to everyone, and thanks to the directors, and thank you, staff, for preparing and circulating the agenda. I'd like to acknowledge that April is Genocide Awareness Month, and it's also Sikh Heritage Month. Today, April the 28th, marks the day of mourning, which is dedicated to the remembrance and honoring of those who lost their lives or suffered injuries at their workplaces. As well, and appropriately, today is World Day for Safety and Health at Work. This day draws attention to the collective and individual responsibility of employees, employers, and workers to maintain and improve occupational health and safety. We are streaming on YouTube as usual. We have one deputation today. We have 3 consent agenda items that were brought forward at previous committee meetings and are here for information only, unless a director wants to for discussion. If that's not the case, we will not be addressing these issues at this meeting. We'll also go in camera for a portion of the meeting, and we will public realm to approve items that were deliberated on during the in-camera session. I will now proceed with our Land and African Housing Corporation. TSHC recognizes that we live and work on the traditional territory Haudenosaunee and the Wendat nations, and that this area is now home to a diverse population of First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people. We recognize that Toronto is situated within the traditional territories governed by the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Treaty between the Haudenosaunee and the Anishinaabe nations, the Two-Row Wampum Treaty between the Haudenosaunee and the Dutch, as well as Treaty 13 and the Williams Treaties involving the Anishinaabe and the Crown. These agreements remain in effect today, underscoring our shared responsibility to as treaty people. Toronto Seniors Housing Corporation has benefited from these treaties and the resources of this land by providing essential housing services to seniors in Toronto. We are dedicated to furthering reconciliation initiatives, which include facilitating staff education on historical and ongoing impacts of policies affecting Indigenous peoples. This encompasses topics such as the Indian Act, residential schools, treaty violations, and the continued crisis surrounding missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls. Now for the African Ancestral Acknowledgement, Toronto Seniors Housing Corporation acknowledges the racism and injustices faced by individuals who were brought to this land involuntarily, particularly those affected by the transatlantic slave trade. We acknowledge the experiences of Black peoples who are in Canada seeking a better life following the abolition of slavery by the British in 1834, which also recognizing the structural, systemic, and individual racisms they have encountered, which continues to persist today. This racism culminated in the tragic destruction of Africville, which was once the largest settlement of the Black community in Canada. Toronto Seniors Housing is committed to recognizing all forms of racism, especially anti-Black racism, and is actively working to combat these injustices. We will now proceed to item number 3, which is new business and approval of the public meeting agenda. The agenda, as I mentioned earlier, was circulated. Are there any new business or any amendments to the agenda?
Farid?
Tom?
Yes, through the chair.
Go ahead.
Yes, through the chair to the board, would just like to add just around an announcement for the Commissioner of Housing Equity.
All right. Are there any objections to that addition?
No.
If not, hearing none, I have someone move that the April 28, 2026 agenda as amended by Tom be approved as amended. I
So
can't
moved.
see everyone on the screen, so can you say your name? Okay, moved
Brenda.
by Brenda, seconded by
Yes.
Linda. All in favor? With all in favor, be it resolved that April 28th, 2026 Board Public Meeting Agenda is approved as presented. Now move to which is a declaration of conflict of interest. Are there any conflicts of interest to declare? Seeing and hearing none, we will move to item number 4. Just a reminder to directors and staff, if a conflict were to arise during the course of the meeting, please identify that conflict. We'll deal with it at that time. I'll now move to item number 5, which is the approval of the board public session minutes of April the 3rd, 2025. Are there any amendments to the board public session minutes of April the 2nd, 2026? Seeing none, may I have some move that the board public session minutes be approved as presented?
So moved, Brenda Paris.
Moved by Brenda, seconded by
Yes.
seconded by Jess. All in favor? With all in favor, be it resolved that the board public session minutes of April 2nd, 2026 are approved as presented. We'll now proceed to item number 6, which is the approval of the closed session board minutes of April 2nd, 2026. Are there any amendments to those minutes? Hearing and seeing none, may I have someone move that the board close?
So move, Linda.
Was
Mr. Chair, we're having technical difficulties hearing you.
Yeah. Thank you, Karen.
Maybe is a second. I see Farid's name twice. Maybe one
Yes,
of
I
them is-
saw that too. Yeah.
Tom, update?
Mr. Chair, we had technical difficulties.
Can you
So
folks
we
hear me?
had, yes, Mr. Chair, can you hear us?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, we can. Audio, yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, we've lost your camera though.
Can you hear me, folks?
Yes.
Hmm.
Can you hear me?
Yes, Mr.
we
Chair,
can.
we can hear you.
Can you folks hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Maybe he can't hear us.
Yeah.
That's right.
Okay, Tom, so go ahead.
Okay. So did Fareed just say for me to go ahead? Was he at
Mr.
the
Chair.
C?
Mr. Chair, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, thank you. We had technical difficulties and you were cut off with the motion to approve the closed session minutes of April 2nd. We had a motioner of Linda Jackson. We still need a seconder for that motion, please.
Lawrence, yeah. Okay.
Okay, I see Lawrence's hand is up. So, Lawrence?
Yes. Yes, Farid.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And the next item would be item 7, the action items list.
Yeah, can you folks hear me? Go ahead, Tom.
Okay, we are at the action item, so um, I
Through the chair,
will.
I can provide an update if you'd like.
Thanks, Grant. Go ahead.
So through the chair, there's one outstanding action item, and that's to consult with TSHC on the environmental renewal and plan. This is still in progress. I do have some information from TSHC with regards to their conservation program. I'm just looking to update some of that information and then share it out with the board. So this is still in progress. That's the update for this item.
Okay, thanks, Grant. Anything else, Tom?
No, there's not. Sorry. The
Okay.
chair. No, there's not.
All right, so
Point of information. Read.
let's go ahead.
I have a point of information.
Yes, go ahead, Jess.
Item 7. The other action was the net potential housing for seniors. And I'm wondering if there's been an update on that or what that looks like.
Tom or Grant?
Through the chair. So that item was completed previously, Jess, and an update was brought forward to the committee from the facilities team at TSHC. And we can loop back on that if you'd like to provide more information.
Thank you, Grant. Thank you. I will. Yeah.
All right, thanks, Jess. Thanks, Grant. So we'll now move to item number 9, which is the Audit, Finance, and Risk Committee report. Costa?
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sorry.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair. With the technical difficulties, we also missed our CEO update.
Okay, all right. So we'll go back to our CEO update. My apologies, Tom. Go ahead.
Thank you. We'll get this right. We'll get this right. Through the chair to the board. So good afternoon. And just before outlining today's updates, want to note a common focus across the items is strengthening connection with our tenants, volunteers, staff, and the broader community. And in each initiative reflects our effort to listen, respond, and improve how we deliver our work. First, I am pleased to announce that we have a new volunteer handbook. And we've invested in really strengthening our tenant volunteer program, including some skills-based training earlier this year and launch of the new the tenant volunteer handbook. It serves as the handbook serves as a central resource for tenants and staff, as it helps to outline the tenant's volunteer role and recognize the contribution that the volunteers make across our communities. The version released this year, it is a pilot, so we want to just continue to evolve it. And it was shaped through direct input from our implementation table with tenant representatives. And throughout 2026, we'll gather feedback from our tenant volunteers and staff to inform a finalized version to really reflect the input that we received. So I'm really pleased to have that in place. Also, we have refreshed our website. So it's another engagement milestone. The comms team, the communications team, worked diligently on this, really to make it just the interface very, very friendly, easy to maneuver. Staff worked with attendants, internal teams and partners to address key feedback, making the site easier to navigate, more accessible, and more representative of the communities we serve. And so overall, the refreshed site supports transparency, accessibility, and timely communication. And so just really thanking the communication team for that push. Just wanting also for the board to know that I've been spending time in each of the regions with the staff, connecting with the staff at regional sessions, almost 40 staff or more at each one of the sessions. So great dialogue with them, and certainly kind of timely around the work with the strategic directions of the organizations. And also wanting just to inform the board just around with our office at 423 Young, with more of the kind of the office staff and return to office. And we are aligning with the City of Toronto's direction to increase the in-office presence. And there's been a lot of collaboration and alignment and consistency to get across the teams. And so we're doing it in a phased approach. We had to get with the space, we had to get more furniture, get all the IT set up, and shifting the location of staff. But as of phase one is starting May the 4th, where myself and the directors will be in 3 days per week, and the staff will be 2 days. And then starting with phase two, that will be at the beginning of July. If there's any kind of kinks over those couple of months, then we'll correct those. And then come July, myself and the directors will be in for 4 days per week, and staff will be in for 3 days for week. So just wanting to provide the board the update on that. So thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Tom. Great update, and it's good to see that staff is returning to the office. And any issues with space or accommodation in that respect, or are you all set? Do you have the adequate accommodation for all of our staff as they return part-time and then eventually full-time into the office?
Yes, through the chair to the board. I just the staff won't be full time. They will be 3 days, and then directors and leaders in 4 days, and that is, as I said, consistent with the city, and we've very nicely with the staff. We've laid it out kind of in neighborhoods, so the different areas they will decide kind of where they want to seat, and we've been very aware of kind of any accommodation that would have to be made. So we hope it will be as seamless as possible. But there are staff who are not. They would prefer more of the hybrid model. But so we've really tried to make this change, kind of as easy for them as possible. So yeah, we're ready to go live.
Okay, thanks. All right. Are there any questions for Tom?
Brenda Paris has her hand raised, Mr. Chair.
Okay, Brenda, go ahead.
Just a question about the volunteer handbook. Is that possible to be sent out to the board members?
Yes, through the chair to the yes, yeah. Deanna can just take note. We will.
Wonderful, thank you. That sounds great. That's wonderful.
Yeah, I should have made that offer.
Absolutely. And the refresh website is up and running, so I can go on to it
yes,
now.
Yes,
okay,
absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay, anyone else has any questions, comments? Okay, if not, we'll move on to item number 9, which is the Audit, Finance, and Risk Committee report. And I'll ask for newly minted chair, Costa, to provide a report on that committee deliberations a few weeks ago.
Thank you, Mr.
Costa,
Chair.
over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good afternoon to all at the last Toronto Seniors Housing Audit, Finance, and Risk Committee meeting of April 8. We focused on a few things: procurement change orders, 2025 operating surplus settlement, 2025 TSHC financial result, 2026 budget notes, TSHC 2025 audit report, and we'll see later on that it was a clean report. So we thanked and congratulated management for that. Recommendation to the City of Toronto's TSHC's 2026 auditor. And the majority of these items will be brought forward to the board today for approval. Our next scheduled meeting is for June 3rd, 2026. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thanks a lot, Costa. Appreciate that report and feedback, and thanks for keeping it tight and clean. So we'll move to, we've got a couple of items on the Audit, Finance, and Risk Committee's agenda that requires board approval. The first one is item number 9C in your agenda and in your package, and that's a 2025 audit by KPMG. Vince, do you want to take members through that? I know that these reports were thoroughly reviewed and vetted at the committee meeting, but if there are any questions from committee members who weren't present at that meeting, and this is your opportunity. Vince, any comments before we take any questions?
No, through the chair, everything looks good there, and thank you, Costa, for chairing that last meeting. The meeting went well, and the auditor were there to present the audit findings on April the 8th. And attachment there's two attachments. One is the attachment for management to sign off, which is attachment 2. And attachment 1 is the audit findings report, and attachment 3 is the audited financial statements there. So I'll take any questions if there are any at this point, but it is going to the board for approval.
Thanks very much. I just also want to recognize that I see Councillor Matlow has joined us. Councillor, welcome. All right, if there are no questions, as I said, we need a board approval. We need to adopt a resolution in this regard. So I'm going to read the resolution, and I'm going to ask for a mover and a seconder. So we need a motion to approve that the board of directors adopt the following resolutions. Number 1, approve the 2025 TSHC audited financial statements.
Amanda had it yesterday.
And 2025 audit finance findings report. And secondly, authorize the CEO and the interim finance lead to sign the management representation letter. So moved by Costa, seconded by Linda. All in favor? With all in favor, be it resolved that the 2025 audited financial statement is approved as presented, and the CEO and interim finance lead is authorized to sign the management representation letter as presented. Okay, we'll move to item number 9B, which is the 2026 recommendation to the City of Toronto to approve the Toronto Seniors Housing Corporation 2026 auditor. Back to you, Vince. This is an approval to appoint KPMG as our external auditor. Any comments, any questions in that regard? Okay, hearing none. I'll read the motion. I need a motion to approve that the Board of Directors adopt the following resolution. Recommend that the City of Toronto appoint KPMG to the TSHC external as the TSHC external auditor for the year ending December 31st, 2026. May I have a mover and a seconder, please?
Costa has his hand raised, Mr. Chair.
Okay, moved by Costa, seconded by Just. All in favor? With all in favor, be it resolved that the aforementioned resolution is approved as presented. We'll now move to item number 10C, which is the 2025 operating surplus settlement. Vince, back to you again, my friend.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and to the board. The 2025 TSHC operating surplus settlement with THC. This is going for approval, and we're seeking an approval for this item through the budget process with the City of Toronto and TSHC. The city has advised us to allocate the remaining surplus to TSHC after taking into consideration the 2026 TSHC budget allocation requirement. TSHC has recorded this surplus as part of the 2025 auditor's report and as part of the reconciliation with TSHC. TSHC is seeking the approval from the board to release payment to TSHC in the amount of $1,154,665.
Okay, directors, any question for Vince? Yes, seeing or hearing none, I need a motion on this one as well. So I need a motion to approve that the Board of Directors adopt the following resolution, approve the 2025 TSHC operating surplus settlement with TCHC in the amount of $1,154,565 as outlined. May I have a mover, please?
Brenda Perez has her hand raised.
Moved by Brenda, seconded by Lawrence. All in favor? With all in favor, be it resolved that the 2025 operating surplus settlement is approved as presented. And we've got one final item on this part of the agenda, which is item number 9D, which is a procurement change order. Again, Vince, over to you.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Chair, and to the board. The number 9D is a procurement change orders is for approval, seeking approval for two items. One is the multilingual community MCIS language solutions for $19,600 to August 31st of 2026. The other one is Calian Cyber Solution, formerly iSecurity, for maintenance of TSHC website server and service and support services, contract extension to November 30th, 2027 in the amount of $91,343.16. For further details in the document, and attachment 1 is included. I'll take any questions if there are any at this point.
Are there any questions for Vince?
Mr. Chair, Jess Cahoon has his hand raised.
Okay, go ahead, my friend.
The chair and the board. Vince, last time this item came up, I asked if there was signing availability through the company. And I don't recall if you got back to the board regarding that. I realize that it is not an issue which has come up in the past 2 meetings, but I'm wondering if they have the ability to do so. Future meetings require signing.
So I can maybe speak to this one through the chair to Jess. Thanks for your comment. I'm getting insight on whether the MCIS contract covers American Sign Language or ASL, and my understanding is they do. The YouTube app also has closed captioning. I know that we have that functionality turned on the streaming end, and that is something that is available immediately to folks listening into the board meeting.
Okay, thanks, Deanna.
Mhm.
Any other questions?
Brenda here.
Okay, Brenda, go ahead.
Sorry, just to follow up, Deanna, with the signing app. You're saying signing is available for board meetings?
So if someone's watching the board through the chair, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
Brenda, if someone's
Yeah.
watching the board meeting today on YouTube, they can
Yep.
turn on closed captioning so they could read along
Okay.
and it's done live captioning. I'm getting confirmation about the MCIS is the acronym for our interpretation provider.
Right.
My
right.
understanding is they do provide signing if that's requested at like a tenant event or something
Right.
of that nature when we translate. I'm
Okay.
checking that.
All right. Thank you then.
All right, thanks, Brenda. If there are no other questions, again, we are looking for approval of this item as well. So may I ask someone to move that the Board of Directors approve and award the following change orders in which the cumulative change order value exceeds 20% of the original commitment value of the contract to A, Multilingual Community Interpretation Services, MCIS Language Solutions, Multilingual Interpretation Services for Operations and Community Partnerships, and program into August 31st, 2026 in the amount of $19,600. And B, Calian Cyber Solutions Limited, formerly iSecurity, maintenance of TSHC website server and support services contract extension to November the 30th, 2027 in the amount of $91,343.16. May I have a mover, please? Moved by
Tim
Costa, seconded by
Meeks has his hand raised. Mr. Chair.
seconded by Jim. All in favor? With all in favor, be it resolved that the procurement change order as presented, the change orders as presented have been approved. We'll now go to item number 10, but before we go to that item, I have an announcement to make. I'm very pleased to announce that Melanie Martin has been appointed as the permanent Commissioner of Housing Equity. So Melanie, congratulations from all of us at the Toronto Seniors Housing Corporation. Both staff and directors, I'm sure, are thrilled, and we feel very privileged to have you as our permanent coach. Melanie, as many of you know, has been part of the Office of the Commissioner of Housing since its inception, most recently as interim commissioner. She has played a very formative role in the creation of the very first community housing equity office in all of North America, previously unheard of offices that offers substantial protection and assistance to tenants, helping thousands to avoid eviction since its inception. So Melanie, I can go on and on and on, but I just want to express our sincere congratulations to you on this permanent appointment. And we look forward to continuing the work that you have so aptly done over the last several years. And we look forward to continued collaboration and ensuring that the office uphold all those ideals that we're now accustomed to as a result of your tenure. So congratulations.
Thank you, Freed. If I can just say, I really want to say thank you to the QTE committee and the board and all TSHC staff and tenants. I'm really honored to continue on in this work, and also to my team. I'm so privileged to have such a professional and dedicated team to work with. So thank you. I'm really looking forward to what's next.
Yeah, thanks. I also want to recognize that Linda has been a part of the selection committee. So the Toronto Seniors Housing Corporation was represented by Linda, and I think Linda did a stellar job in representing us and spending the amount of time required to get this done. So Linda, thank you very much as well, because I know when I contacted you to do this, you agree wholeheartedly and unreservedly. So I do appreciate the time you spent on this, and thanks for engaging the Toronto Community Housing Corporation and working with them to get our new or more permanent commissioner in place. So with that, I'll ask Linda to provide a verbal update on QTE.
Thank you, and great timing. And let me echo your congratulations to Melanie. Really delighted to continue to work with you, because QTech actually has a really close relationship with the office, and it is really exciting. Our last meeting was on February 23rd, 2026, and like many meetings, it was chock-a-block full. We reviewed our committee work plan. OCH had a few agenda items, so it's great that to have Melanie here today to actually bring these forward. She presented the OCH biannual report, July to December 2025, the work plan, which is being brought forward today for approval. And I'm so glad actually that we were able to announce, because I think the question would have come up today, and so it's good to actually know that you're owning it fully, Melanie. We also looked at the rapid rehousing annual report, the TSCH annual plan, which is also being brought forward today for approval. We had a brief update on community programs and partnerships, a communications update, a facility condition index year-end review, and we had a brief report from the community safety unit, which we will actually have a more detailed report coming up at future meetings. Our next meeting is scheduled for May 19th, 2026, and this was regularly in the work plan. Upon review of the agenda, it was agreed by the team and Karen and I that really the agenda actually requires 2 meetings. So we have added another meeting into the calendar, and I think actually it's coming forward are meaty and require attention and not being rushed through. So we will have a meeting on May 19th, 2026, and we will have another June 1st, 2026. And usual, we'll send the agenda out to everyone, and you're welcome to attend as well for both of these meetings. And that's it for QTech for today.
Thank you. Thanks again, Linda. And I also want to recognize Councillor Crisanti, who has joined us. So, Councillor, welcome. All right. So we will now move to item number 10A, which is the OCH biannual report, July to December 31st, 2025. So, Melanie, over to you.
Reed, I'm sorry to interrupt. It looks like Jess has a question. I know it's hard to actually
Sorry,
see
Jess.
all the hands.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I can't see
I will ask my
everyone.
question after the report by Melanie.
All right, great. Thanks, Jess. Yeah, and just a reminder, if you've got questions, I just said I can't see the entire screen. So just either Karen or someone can take a look at the virtual squares and let me know if I'm missing anyone. All right, go ahead, Melanie.
Okay, thanks. So through the chair, during this period, the OCH received 147 referrals, which is consistent with prior periods. In addition, 80% of referrals involved arrears under 3,000, demonstrating that staff are in compliance with the arrears collection process. In terms of outcomes, tenant engagement remains strong, with 91% of engaged tenants avoiding evictions. The partnerships also continue to yield positive results, particularly since the senior services coordinators were given access to Wood Green's tax link service. This has resulted in a proactive shift that is stabilizing tenancies before arrears accumulate. Looking ahead, new initiatives such as our developing partnership with Service Canada will further streamline processes. Overall, the data reflects continued early intervention, strong compliance, and meaningful collaboration between the OCH and TSHC, and we remain well positioned in 2026 to continue reducing arrears and preserving tenancies. Thank you, and I'll take any questions.
Okay, Jess, why don't you go ahead?
Yeah, I note in the report, Melanie, to the board and chair, that there are 5 meetings attended by 300 participants. Is there a need for additional sessions to engage more tenants who may be in need?
Are you talking about so through the chair, are you talking about the case conferences or the Service Canada partnership?
The information sessions, there are 5 of them. I understand.
Oh, yes. So sorry. So through the chair. So we just started those in 2026. So those are going to be, they're actually directly targeted at seniors who are turning 65 and who are transitioning from ODSP, to pensions when they're turning 65. So we worked with TSHC to identify the most in need communities at this point. So we're starting off there with a look after we learn stuff from the first sessions with an opportunity to expand them if needed.
Thank you.
Okay, are there any other questions for Melanie on this particular item, the annual report? Okay, thank you again, Melanie. We'll now proceed to item number 10B, which is the OCH TSHC 2026 work plan.
Okay, thank you. So again, through the chair, I'm really excited to share the first work plan developed exclusively for TSHC. Historically, the OCH was including its work with TSHC in the yearly work plan that was approved by the TCHC Board of Directors. For 2026, it was decided that given the unique needs of TSHC and the organization's distinct arrears collection process, that it made sense to complete a separate work plan. For 2026, the work plan sets out 4 goals, which include preventing evictions, auditing compliance with the arrears collection process, strengthening community partnerships, and enhancing reporting and governance. The approval of this work plan ensures continued protection for vulnerable seniors, strengthens accountability, and positions the OCH as a strategic partner to TSHC. So I welcome any questions you may have on the new work plan. Thank you.
Okay, are there any questions for Melanie on the work plan?
Brenda Paris, has her hand raised.
Just a quick
Go ahead,
question.
Brenda.
Just a quick question. Are our processes different than the Toronto Community Housing? Are they substantially different? Just want to get a sense of uniqueness.
Thank you. So through the chair, that's a great question. So yes, they are different, and it's because TSHC works under the integrative service model. So you have a different staffing model than TCHC. Okay. So that's the true. Staff response are like at TCHC, the TSCs manage their arrears collection process, whereas at TSHC, you guys have the integrated service model. So it is different, and there's different timelines. There's a lot of things that are the same, but there are distinct differences, yes.
And I guess because our population is more vulnerable technically due to age and possible disability. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. So through the chair, yeah, so there is the distinct arrears collection process. There's also that at TSHC, we're currently doing a cleanup of files where it seems that TSHC is through their arrears collection process. They haven't, theirs is newer and they've been doing it longer. So that's why it's difficult to have one report that explains both corporations' outcomes because it would make it confusing. So we thought it would be more streamlined to just be able to focus on TSHCs and provide the information on that through the
Yes, yes. Yeah, I agree with that. Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks, Brenda. Thanks again, Melanie. Any other questions?
Yes, I have a question.
Go ahead, Jim.
To the chair and the board, Melanie, with the large number of people who are over the age of 85, therefore there be income inequities based on their ability to save money. Is there a model or plan through OACH to address this shortfall in income, i.e. through proposing the proposal for the social assistance, either old age security or Canada pension to be not taxable, which may help to alleviate some of the financial burdens of older people.
Thank you. So through the chair, are you thinking about like changes to like when seniors are accessing their pensions and the amounts, like the inequity of the low income? I just want to understand the question a little bit better before I.
Okay. Yeah, I suspect that people who are over 85 have lower incomes than anybody else in the range of the people who live at Toronto seniors. Certainly, there are a larger number proportionately of people over the age of 85. And I suspect that their lack of income through no fault of their own may be a financial burden. So are we looking at that as becoming more proactive to address the social inequity of income inequities?
The chair, I can say whenever a file comes to OACH and we're working with any senior, we always ensure as a first step that they're receiving all the income they're entitled to. And if there's any income they're not getting that they should be, we would help and support them to get that income. In addition, we would always try to support them with looking for savings within their budget. That's part of our process as well as creating a budget. Regarding policy work, if there was some type of change regarding OIS, we could potentially look at it. I think it might fall outside of OACH's scope, but I want to assure you that whenever we have a tenant, we are always trying to get them the maximum income so that they're able to stabilize their tenancies and afford their rent. And the rent would always be calculated based on 30% of whatever income they're getting. So if their income for some reason went down at 85, their rent would also go down to reflect that. So it's only the 30% going forward. I hope that answers the question.
Yes, thank you very much.
Mr. Chair, Jim Meeks has his hand raised.
Go ahead, Jim.
To the chair and to the board, Melanie, how does the difference between the plan for TCHC and the TSHC affect the seniors that are living in TCHC?
Thank you. So through the chair, so that's a great question, but I just want to assure everyone the service of OACH is the same whether we're providing it to TCHC or TSHC. So if we were providing a service particular to seniors, for example, and like we have Wood Green, when we implemented that program, we implemented it across both organizations so that all tenants have the same access to the same service, even if they're seniors living in TCHC. So our approach doesn't change. We still provide them with the same service, and it doesn't change. So there would be no difference in what they get from OACH.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Jim. Anyone else? Okay, so Melanie, thanks again. I think we are looking for an approval of this item. So may I ask someone to move that the Board of Directors approve the OACH 2026 work plan as presented?
So move, Linda.
Moved by Jim, seconded by Linda. All in favor? With all in favor, be it resolved that the OH 2026 work plan is approved as presented. So we'll now move to our final item on this section, 10C, which is the TSHC 2026 annual plan. Grant, over to you.
Thank you. And through the chair, so for the board's approval today is the 2026 TSHC annual plan. This report and draft of the plan went to the QTEC meeting in February, and this plan really is set up as a bridge for 2026 as we move towards our future strategic directions, which is a project that's currently underway. The annual plan essentially consolidates key initiatives carried forward or over from the 2023 to 2025 strategic directions, some emerging projects to address operational needs and gaps, and priorities previously identified by the departments. There are 32 specific initiatives in the plan, and the plan is set up and aligned to the current strategic objectives and enablers that are in the 2023 to 2025 strategic directions. And it was recommended at the QTE meeting for it to come forward to board for consideration for approval, and I will take any questions.
Yeah, thanks, Grant. Just before we address any question, I just want to compliment staff. I mean, this was a lot of work I know went into this. So thanks to you and Tom and the rest of the leadership team, but also the rest of the work that they've done in this regard. And thanks to QTE for also doing I think a fairly good job at vetting and going through that plan. So are there any additional questions on the 2026 annual plan?
Yeah,
All right.
yes, to the board and through the chair.
Go ahead,
I believe
please.
there was a recommendation from the board to try to shorten the timelines of the implementation
Of the strategic plan.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's right.
and I don't know if that has resulted in any savings of time or rethinking the plan through.
So through the chair and to the board, we are looking at the timelines associated with the development of the new strategic directions, and we will look to expedite those, as was discussed recently at the board workshop on the new strategic directions, to your point. And our goal is to bring that forward, ideally at in the early fall. So essentially, once we've concluded the consultations and the drafting of this, it'll come through QTE and to the board.
Thanks for that reminder, Justin. I think it's worth re-emphasizing at this meeting that I guess there was a real concern with the length of time this was taking, and that a year is perhaps a bit too long for us to do the strat plan. And so any time that we can cut from, again, not suggesting that we short circuit any of the process, in particular the consultation process, but
Consultations, yeah.
there are elements in there that we thought could be, especially the review and consolidation part. So the ones that are within our control. So Grant, thanks for taking a look at it. But I think it's worth re-emphasizing that taking a year to get that sorted out is perhaps a bit too long for us. So appreciate any work that can be done in that regard. All right. Any other question on the work plan?
Yes, the tenant engagement. Sorry, through the chair to the board. It's certainly an area that I'm very interested in, particularly in digital literacy and creating expanded opportunities for residents to access through the integrated service model. I see that there are pilot projects and initiatives that are targeted to specific buildings or groupings. And I'm wondering if there is an opportunity or ways of bringing these wonderful programs to more tenants and to more buildings, particularly digital literacy through the Toronto Council on Aging or Toronto Public Libraries, to continue to pursue the coordinated wellness model for implementation, and to develop a health and housing dashboard that will further integrate the service model to more tenants.
So through the chair and to the board. So in the annual plan that is before you, there is an initiative on there that is titled Continued Digital Access and Literacy Initiatives, Cable Rollout, Public Wi-Fi Rollout, and Digital Literacy Programming. And that is an aspect associated with what you're getting at, Jess. Maybe I'll just pass it to Deanna for a second to expand on that.
Yeah, thanks, Grant. Through the chair to the board, thanks, Jess, for your questions, and I can give you more insight at any time. In terms of those digital access and literacy, there are a couple programs rolled under that big bucket. Ones that we lead are rollout of cable. So thank you to our work with TSHC. We've worked with Rogers to provide cable TV in all of our common spaces, our recreation rooms that have a television. So that's one where we are rolling out to all buildings. Jess, to your question, on the Wi-Fi, public Wi-Fi rollout, that's something we continue to work with ConnectTO at the City of Toronto on. We are part of a much bigger program, and we have shared with them a next round of sites. They roll it out over many years, but we are working with them to continue to advocate for TSHC sites to receive that install. And then on digital literacy programming, another area where we are actively working with Toronto Public Library right now on the next tranche of sites. You may know just the program is about 6 months at a time. About 12 of our buildings have undergone that program tied to those with public Wi-Fi, but we are now looking to expand beyond those buildings to anywhere where we've identified a digital literacy need. So expansion is definitely on our radar for that.
And Chair?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, and as through the chair to the board, and Jess, just those other items that you raised, when I go through my 2026 performance plan with the objectives for 2020, I will address some of those areas in more detail.
All right, thanks, Tom. Thanks, Deanna. Thanks, Jess. Are there any other questions on this? Okay, hearing or seeing none, we are looking for an approval on this item as well. So may I ask someone to move that the Board of Directors approve the Toronto Seniors Housing Corporation 2026 annual plan as presented? Moved by Linda, seconded by Jim. All in favor? With all in favor, be it resolved that the Toronto Seniors Housing Corporation 2026 annual plan is approved as presented. Moving right along to item number 11, which is the Corporate Governance and Human Resource Committee report. And I'll hand you over to the chair of that committee, Brenda. Go ahead and provide us with an update on that committee deliberations.
Thank you very much. Our committee met on March 19th, and our agenda focused on 5 items, one of which is coming back here for review. The committee's work plan was reviewed. We have quarterly reports and quarterly setup for our reports on this. Our People and Culture dashboard, which is a consistent service that details things. Our 2025 annual report, which is being brought forward to today for approval. You'll see it, I think it was in our package, very nicely laid out. Thank you, Deanna and staff, for that. We also discussed in a subcommittee of 2025 the compensation of senior management. These are people who are not unionized and covered under our collective agreement, as well as the 2026 performance management process. Now we'll be meeting again in June, and we'll have to reschedule this. I just discovered to a different date because of people being on holidays. So we'll be meeting back again in June sometime. That's it.
All right, thank you very much. Any questions for Brenda before we move on? Okay, seeing or hearing none, we'll now move to our 2025 annual report. But before we get into the details of that report, we have a deputation, and I'd like to once again welcome Mr. Lohman. Mr. Lohman, it's a pleasure to always have you and to get your perspective at our committee meeting. So I'll invite Bill to debut.
Got feedback there.
Bill, are you with us? You can go ahead.
Mr. Chair, I just expelled him. He came in twice, so just waiting for him to rejoin.
Thanks. That was the reason for the echo, I guess.
Yeah, yeah.
Correct, Mr. Chair.
You back in?
Not yet, Mr. Chair. Apologies, Mr. Chair. I have reached back out for Mr. Rowan to join again. And he's just joined. And Mr. Rowan has joined, Mr. Chair.
Okay, so
Hello?
Bill, once again, thank you for agreeing to participate in this item. So I'll invite you to present your deputation. You've got 5 minutes.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Hunter, and directors of the board. And congratulations, Melanie. I'm also hearing about the 65 plus program that's coming out. It's in, the posters are up in my building, and I think it's wonderful. I'm one of those individuals that got caught in that some years ago, and I'm still trying to, figure some of those things out. Anyway, thank you very much for this opportunity to comment on 11A, the annual report. My name is Bill Lohman, and the annual report for 25 in the progress, today I'm hearing about that work. Some of the things that I was just hearing mentioned about the literacy program and about the Wi-Fi and the cable coming into the buildings. These are things that were all being worked on last year, and so it was a very productive year in many, many ways. I do have, I guess, I would think my reputation, I guess, is that I am focused on tenant voices in their communities and them being a stakeholder in this process. I've been directly in. So today I want to talk about the use of space. That is actually went into effect on January 1, 2025. So it's been more than a year. And I was directly involved as a member of the STAC and the implementation table, advising on the different iterations over the last few years as it was getting to the policy that it is. And I raised concerns then, and I raise concerns now about the ambiguity and the vagueness that's in some of the terms that are open to different individual interpretation and potential misuse. And I pointed out that there's a lack of inclusion in decision-making and an absence of tenant voices in the deciding how their community space is used. Sometimes it feels like I live with a false belief about honesty, respect, and reciprocity when the senior lens that I've advised and worked, I think, patiently over 5 years plus seems to get lost in translation. And I think, context matters. And so sometimes when information is left out of discussions about tenants and where they can have a lead and to make informed decisions, that when that's left out, sometimes things can sway in a way that's really not in line with the expectations that were set out at the outset. Speaking about tenants first, and the role that tenants are supposed to play. I've had discussions with management about issues regarding the use of space. That right now it is all decisions are made by staff behind closed doors, and questions. We will speak to you about questions, but we cannot tell you. So when there are use of space granted for 6 in the evening till 10 in the evening, 7 days a week, 365 days a year for one group, to me, that's not in line with the idea and the purpose for the use of space. It's to be shared. Now, when you add on top of that, that this use of space was never shared with the community as a whole, that adds to the problem. And it's not in line with tenants having a voice and being involved in the decision-making of their communities. So that's all I have to say on that issue. And thank you very much for your ears.
Thanks a lot, Bill. As always, we do appreciate that perspective. And the issue about tenant centricity is at the very heart of what we do as an organization. So I think, the fact that, as you indicated, there might not be as strong a voice or input into the use of space that you and others expect is an issue that I think we'll take up and perhaps address with our staff. Are there any questions for Bill before we move on?
Yes, I have a question, which
Go ahead, Jess.
So, Bill, I don't know if you were at the regional meeting where it was recommended that STAC members get more engaged with all of the buildings to hear these types of questions. And perhaps I'm being a bit preemptive because it'll be brought up this week at a STAC meeting. But in terms of engagement with tenants and having their voices heard, for STAC to be represented more at the community level, there's only 24 STAC members in 83 buildings, so not all buildings are being heard. Would this be an appropriate use of time and perhaps resources of STAC members?
Thank you for the question, Jess. Absolutely. I think it's certainly a start. It actually was recommended as part of the principles and methods for tenant engagement, that there be that linkage from the STAC. Because you go to STAC meetings and what do you hear from the members? You hear about complaints and issues in their buildings. And so there is no collective voice. It's just individual voices. And I do believe that the STAC can help to do that, to bring, to help collect those voices so that they can get heard. But still at the building level, the day-to-day, tenants don't have a voice other than their tenant circle and the community action funds. There's no collective voice in the community to deal with whatever, a certain issue may be. That's something, that democratic process that we talk about. Right now, tenants they're there on their own, and the engagement is It's overseen by staff. The tenant circles are run by staff. All of the money, the expenses, all of those things are controlled and provided by staff. And the role of tenants is to bring out volunteers to do the work for events. And now my point with the use of space is that when communities are not aware that there is a use of space given to a group inside their building, they're being denied a voice. And what it's doing is it's staff making decisions about a building that they don't live in. And so this is, so this is what I'm talking about in the building. You look at the policy. The policy states very clearly, it needs to be, and I will read it out to you very quickly here because I have it noted, guiding principles. There's a time limit, a 3-hour time limit. 6 to 10, that's beyond the 3 hours. Notifying all, signage, essential to conveying what's happening and who is welcome. If there's no signage, nobody knows whether they're welcome or not. Notifying all, right? It's essential to convey. The triaging that tenant-led and reoccurring activities should be prioritized. Now, I've had things that I have, that I have a use of space for that have been interrupted and overridden by housing, bringing in somebody else's program. And then a link to tenant priorities. The activity or program should be tied to an identified need and interest expressed by the tenant community. Now, some of us, community, we have, different definitions of what a community is, right? So if this is all being decided by staff behind closed doors with tenants not knowing anything, that is a violation. That is not in line with what the policy is intended for. And that needs to change. Tenants need to have a voice in what's happening in their building. It should not be a staff-only decision. They don't live here.
Okay,
So
thanks.
thank you for
Thanks
letting me
again.
rant.
Thanks again, Bill. As always, we do appreciate your perspective, and I think that's an important point, particularly given, our penchant to engage and reflect the wishes of our tenants. So I don't know, Tom, if you want to provide any quick response before we conclude this item. I don't want to belabor it. I think the point is well taken. We'll have a bit of a conversation on this with staff. Brenda, do you have any?
Yeah, just a couple points, and it may not be the forum here for answer, but somewhere else. It just seems to me that there needs to be a forum. That's what's missing here is a forum for this discussion and this resolution of what we mean by tenant involvement. And we had stack. We've now evolved with our circles, which are specific to the building. So it may need some clarity about the role of stack versus the tenant circles. Okay, that sort of thing. But it also begs the question of, is there a forum for this resolution and discussion as to exactly what shape tenant involvement will take? And there's no structural setup, there's not like, and I don't think we've resolved in our mind exactly what the nature of tenant involvement will be. And I think it's important as we move forward that we delineate, what do we mean by that? So we don't discourage people from offering and suggesting things that we cannot deliver. But I think there is a resolution here, it just needs to be worked on. And I think the reviewing of the roles of stack, in addition to the tenant circles in each building, maybe it might be necessary. And maybe the role of stack members, individual members, could be to represent more than just their own building. You could maybe regionalize it. So a stack member is responsible for 4 buildings, for example, and then they consult with the people in those 4 buildings and bring it to the forum. So I just think it maybe needs a step back and some minds to put some thought to this and maybe somehow find a way to resolve and structure, resolve roles, resolve what we mean by tenant involvement, and the structure of what that will be, other than just getting people in their buildings to volunteer. It speaks to something I've been talking about as well, about the role of community-led buildings and the role of community development processes. I'll leave it at that.
Thank you very
We can
much.
have- we
I
can-
look forward to being part of that process.
Through the chair, just
Yeah.
to the response to your ask for a response from myself and to the board, I would just like to share with the board that there will be a review of the use of space. So it has been in place now for the time that that Bill indicated, and it is, you know, a very important policy to our tenants, and it was one of the ones that we started to work on very early. And so we will be working on that, and also I will assure that I know staff have been working on the issues around use of space at the building where Bill lives, but we will make sure that we check into the areas that he raised, and just even with around the just to the point around that was raised around the Community Connect Plus and tenant participation. I think we want just to work on alignment around what is documented around the Community Connect Plus, what we have implemented, and of course, it too is relatively new. And so we want to make sure that we continue to evolve it and improve it. There are other housing providers who have used our Community Connect Plus as a model in their buildings. It has very positive aspects to it, but there are areas where we still need to grow. And I do like, and just a reminder to the board that on Stack, it was revised that there are 6 representatives of each of the 4 regions. And so if an evolution, if the tenants feel that they want more specific representation on those buildings, then we can build that out. But we were responsive to this more regionally based, building based perspective. And so we'll continue to evolve. Thanks.
All right. Good. All right. And once again, Bill, thank you very much. Appreciate your perspective. And as you can see, we will be engaged in conversations over the next little while, including hearing from tenant voices and how we move forward in this regard. Okay. So we're looking for an approval for this item. I guess before we go to the approval, Deanna, anything on the 2025 annual report? Anything else that you want to sort of deliberate on?
Yeah, thank you. Brief comments through the chair to the board. Pleased to present the 2025 annual report. As we all know, in compliance with the shareholder direction, we must file it by April 30th, 2026. So we're right about here at the timeline. And it was originally shared to the CGHRC committee on March 19th. I mainly want to spend a moment just thanking the communications team for leading the development of this report, the many departments across the organization who contributed content and insight, and the tenants who so generously shared their stories and allowed us to take their beautiful pictures. I am so pleased to see their faces all over that report because they guide everything that we do and lead us in everything that we do. And I want to acknowledge our partners and sector peers who helped make 2025 such a strong year. Finally, one of the questions raised during committee was our plans to make the annual report accessible or readable for the tenants and the public. So a few things here to update you on. It will, of course, be posted on our website in a very digital, easy to read format, as has been done in prior years. We will mention it in our Senior Speak newsletter. That's something we always put out is linking them to our tenants who read it to the annual report. It's available for translation, like all of our key deliverables. And we're working on a visualization of the key insights and the information, and that should be ready to go in the next week or so. We're just putting the final touches. So I just wanted to close the loop on that item that came up at the committee. And with that, I'm pleased to answer any questions and I'm here to support in any way. Thank you.
It's Linda.
Any questions?
Through the
Hi,
chair,
Linda, go
maybe
ahead.
just a comment. I just I wanted to commend the team for a really visually beautiful annual report, and I think it's really worth getting it out there. There, boy, you covered everything, and so it's a nice. It's something I think all of us should actually have close to us, because I think often things come up that it's hard to keep track of all the activity. But I just wanted to commend the group. I thought it was excellent. And we didn't see that, like the final polished version. So this is really nice.
There you go. Thanks, Linda.
Yeah, thanks, Lynn. And I think we all echo those sentiments. So thanks to Deanna and her staff and everyone else who's been involved in this. Are there any other questions before we move to the adoption?
Yeah,
Brenda
just a
Barrett.
comment. Just a thanks to the tenants and staff who agreed to display their stories. And I particularly like that aspect of the report. It puts a human face on the work we do. And it also just shows people where they're from, how they've entered into our orbit, whether as a tenant, as a worker, what country they're from, what experience they've had. I think it's always good to get grounded by that. Thank you.
Okay, any other comments, feedback, compliments? Okay, hearing or seeing none, I'll move to the adoption. So we're looking for an approval of this item again. May I ask someone to move that the Board of Directors approve the 2025 annual report as presented? Moved by Linda, seconded by Brenda. All in favor? All in favor, be it resolved that the 2025 annual report is approved as presented. We'll now move to item number 12, which is the TSHC Annual General Meeting and 2025 Audited Financial Statements. Grant, over to you.
Thank you. Through the chair, this report is being brought forward to the board today for approval, and it's to meet requirements under the Business Corporations Act and the shareholder direction from the City of Toronto with regards to TSHC's annual general meeting. The report itself will ask the city, once approved by the board, to call the annual general meeting for TSHC at a future council meeting and to receive some items that have been approved in this board meeting today, including the 2025 annual report that was just approved, the 2025 audited financial statements that were approved earlier in the meeting, the appointment of the auditor that was approved earlier in the meeting, and then there's an attachment to this report that outlines the TSHC 2025 executive compensation and an attachment on financial impacts. These materials have been developed based on previous years in terms of the structure of the materials. The draft of all of this was run by the city for feedback and to make sure that our requirements were met in presenting them to the board today. And once approved, if the board approves, this will go to executive committee as part of a package for the July 21st meeting and then to council for the July 29th to 31st meeting. And I'll take any questions on this.
Grant, are there any questions for Grant?
Yes, I have a question, Grant. Perhaps I'm being too general, but the city's subsidy to TSHC is $47 million, if I'm reading the documents correctly, of which just over $30 million is going back to the mortgage payment, and 6 million, well, close to 7 million, which is an increase of 900,000 year over year from 2024, are going to employee benefits and retirement package. So of the city's subsidy, over 80% of that is going to pay themselves back and to pay the employees. This doesn't show a great commitment to the activities of the TSHC, and I'm wondering how we can reflect that.
Through the chair, I believe, Jess, you're speaking with regards to the financial impact attachment that is part of this report. And I'm going to ask if Vince could assist with a response on this particular aspect of what you're getting at with the subsidy and how it's applied.
Great, thanks, Grant. And to Jess's question earlier, with respect to the amount from the city subsidy, as I mentioned in the past, the subsidy represented only a third of the overall contributions from revenue that we received Total revenue for 2025, included in this case here, $144 million. And out of that, I believe 48 million of that is to do with the subsidy from the city. The rest of it comes from our RGI rent and also our market rent and also other income as well. That makes up the $144 million in total. Along with that as well, there, as you mentioned earlier, there's a significant amount of that has to do with the mortgage and utilities, and of course also operating expenses as well. In the end, that amount has been netted out in terms of the total expenses of $144.4 million in total. So overall, we're basically having a flat or a balanced budget, as you can see there. But I hope that I've answered your question in terms of how that operates there. We work on a very tight yearly amount that we work with the city to get the additional subsidy needed in order to fund the operating expenses for future years. But we work through it year by year, and this is how we've been doing it with the city budget process over the last many years at this point here.
Okay, thank you, Vince. Any other questions for Vince or Grant? Okay, hearing or seeing none. I've got a pretty lengthy set of resolutions, so bear with me as I go through them. So may I ask someone to move that the Board of Directors adopt the following resolutions. Number 1, the Board arrange with the City Clerk to call the annual general meeting of the shareholders for Toronto Seniors Housing Corporation during a portion of the City Council meeting to which these recommendations are considered, and recommend the City Council A, receive the Board approved Toronto Seniors Housing Corporation 2025 annual report. B, receive the Board approved Toronto Seniors Housing Corporation 2025 audited financial statements. Item C, appoint KPMG LLP as auditor of Toronto Seniors Housing Corporation for the fiscal year 2026 and authorize the Board of Directors of Toronto Seniors Housing Corporation to set the fee of the auditor as recommended by the Board. Item number D, receive the Toronto Seniors Housing Corporation 2025 executive compensation disclosure. Item number 2, the Board recommends that City Council receive the financial impact section regarding known and anticipated financial outlooks and impacts current and future years for Toronto Seniors Housing Corporation. Item number 3, the Board authorizes the Chief Executive Officer on behalf of the Board to submit to the Board's recommendations and materials identifying the recommendations 1 and 2 once approved by the Board at its meeting of April 28, 2026 to the City Clerk for consideration by Executive Committee and City. May I have a mover and a seconder, please? I'll ask Councillor Crisanti to move. Councillor Crisanti, moved by Councillor Crisanti, seconded by Costa. All in favor? With all in favor, be it resolved that the Board approved the Toronto Seniors Housing Corporation Annual General Meeting and 2025 audited financial statements as presented. We'll now move to item number 13, which is the TSHC electric mobility device, e-device policy. Back to you, Grant.
Thank you. And so through the chair, before the Board today is the electric mobility device or e-device policy that is being recommended for approval. A little bit of context for this particular policy. So this policy actually was drafted by Toronto Community Housing and was approved at their board previously. And in the recommendation for that approval, they recommended that TSHC's board consider approving the same policy or a similar policy. We recently received that material from TSHC with the recommendation for this, which is why we're bringing it forward to the board at this time. The policy itself was actually drafted in 2025, and it was in response to increasing safety concerns with regards to e-bikes, electric bikes, and other types of e-mobility devices. In particular, things like the batteries, storage associated with those devices. In the development of the policy at Toronto Community Housing last year, TSHC was engaged in the process. So we were aware that they were developing a policy on this, and they did engage TSHC, both staff and tenants. So there were some tenant consultation sessions that they ran, And our tenants were invited to participate in those sessions. Some of those were in person, some of those were virtual. And also there was a survey that they did. And then some of our staff from the operations team in particular were part of this. This particular policy traditionally or normally would have gone through a path through the Quality and Tenant Engagement Committee before being brought forward to board. However, we did consult with Linda with regards to bringing this forward in a more timely manner due to the safety nature associated with this particular policy. We wanted to note that the policy does not restrict the use of assisted mobility devices, which many of our TSHC residents use, like electric wheelchairs, for example. However, there are considerations around where different types of e-devices, and they're defined in the policy as things like e-bikes, e-mobility scooters, e-motorcycles, and those are all and they're permitted in different contexts. So there's aspects associated with the devices being permitted on the property, permitted in the parking, permitted in the buildings, and permitted in units, depending on the type of device. And there's a summary associated with that in the policy. So what is actually attached to this report is the TCHC version of the policy that we're recommending TSHC consider for adoption. We would put a cover letter on that policy, which we've attached as well as one of the attachments on this report to indicate our support for this if the board approves this. And we've also included the referral of the motion from TCHC in the materials. So this particular policy, we're hoping that the board would consider it today. There will be follow-up on this with regards to further communication with tenants, and we are aware that this is something that has been flagged as an area for some urgency, so that we can actually put this in place and ensure that the safety of tenants is paramount in this particular area. And I'll pause and take any questions.
Thanks. Any question for Grant? Grant, I have a question, and I was kind of surprised that e-bike is being linked, and these are my words, with assisted mobility device, because I'm not sure that they're the same thing, obviously, and I think there's a greater risk to the tenants and others using e-bike within the environs and within the definition of this policy. So I'm just wondering, what's the thinking behind the permitting e-bike? Is it because of mobility issues? Because I don't know if it would fall into the same category as the assisted mobility device.
So through the chair, so the assisted mobility devices were specifically included in the policy so that it was clear that they would be allowed. And that was to add clarity with regards to that, because there is somewhat of an overlap in terms of these different devices that are out there. And so assisted mobility devices are not restricted devices in the context of the policy. They're actually allowed, and that's why they were noted in there. We did also collectively, TCHC and TSHC, work with the RPath group from an accessibility lens to make sure that considerations from an accessibility perspective would be accommodated here. So that's why it's there. It's to make it clear that those are actually allowed, but it's also to make it clear the other types of devices that aren't allowed, which are the.
But that's my point, right? My point is there's greater clarity on the use of one. There's no question about it, and we're mixing it up with e-bikes, and that's my concern. So if we're, without questioning, if we are allowing assisted mobility device, then it should be, in my view, a standalone policy. Then mixing it up with e-bike that has all kinds of risks associated with it.
That's right.
That were identified in the report.
So the policy itself, through the chair, the policy itself makes reference to more than just e-bikes in terms of other types of electric mobility devices.
I understand that. I see the definition. My point is that why are we having an integrated policy that provide more restrictions on e-bikes, as quite rightfully, than having a separate policy, one that allows mobility assisted devices because our residents need that, and then a separate policy that deals with e-bikes because of all the risks associated with using them.
I think through the chair, I think the approach that was taken was to have one integrated policy that would cover the different aspects of electric devices. If the prerogative of the board is to look at us doing it differently, we can certainly take this back for further review.
Brenda here.
Go ahead, Brenda.
I share your concerns, Fareed. Because I'm livid about this equivalency stretching that we do. It's like service animals. Service animals are approved by authorities and they're trained. So when people say they're my emotional support animal, it degrades and diminishes the need of people who are blind to have a service animal, or et cetera, et cetera. So I'm happy that there is a delineation. I'm happy that there's a policy. I think I would like for it, I personally, I don't want to say don't accept this because I think it's an important first step, but I would like to have a certain clarity and differentiating between people who need a device as extension of their legs, literally, right? They need it to walk, to move, as distinct from someone who chooses voluntarily to have an e-bike to get around town. And the safety issues, I've never, ever heard of any explosion of batteries on electric wheelchairs. I've lived with this for dozens of years through my family members and through my work in rehab. And so the safety issue is quite paramount right now. And I noticed that the TTC has also banned them for a certain period of time because they're cheaply made and there's no Canada Safety Association mark on them, right? So in terms of today, I suppose we could possibly continue with approving because it's consistent. But I would like to delineate separately at another point in time our particular needs, our particular policy as regards to people with mobility issues and senior issues, as distinct from micro mobility devices that help people flit around town. And I really am. I understand the need of a policy, but this equivalency stuff, it worries me because it's a slippery slope.
So through the chair, I would just also update that we are going to be working on the accessibility policy as well. And we can also look at mobility devices in the context of that policy as well.
And add into that service animals, if you're going to look at accessibility issues. Because
that's an upcoming policy project that is for this year. Yes.
Because everyone and their brother wants to bring their dog everywhere, right?
Okay. All right. So what's the view of the board? Are we prepared to approve this subject to this further review that is being undertaken by staff and then take another look at it? I'm okay with that approach. We can approve, and perhaps the board can revisit this grant once you've had a chance to update that policy that you're working on.
I would support that. Yeah.
Is that a reasonable compromise?
Thank you. That's doable from our perspective. Thank you very much.
Mr. Chair, I've updated the motion and will share if that's to your preference.
Good.
So I think we can go ahead and the motion that just put on the screen there is a motion to approve the current adoption of the Toronto Community Housing Corporation TSHC electric mobility device, e-device, with a more in-depth review to come back to the board in the future. I'm okay with that resolution.
Yeah.
Anyone? Okay. So can I have a seconder?
I'll second it.
That's sorry, a mover, which is Brenda, and seconded by Linda. You okay? Seconded it?
I'm good. Yep.
Sorry, Fareed, you're saying to come back in the future. We not no timelines.
When we should. We should. Sorry, Councillor. That's a good
point. The future could be a year. It could be 10 years.
Yeah. Grant, when is the proposed review being undertaken?
So through the chair, the accessibility policy, the review will be happening in the second half of this year, and we anticipate the policy coming forward in Q1 of next year.
So Q1 of next year?
Yeah, we can consider it for that process. And if something happens between now and then that facilitates us coming back on this policy, we can certainly do that as well.
Sure. So if we can touch a timeline, that'd be helpful.
Yeah, and through the chair, not to belabor it, but maybe also just reassuring us how the batteries are actually monitored. There's a big piece of this that is actually specific batteries and stuff. So it would be great to know how that is actually monitored, because it seems to be that's where sometimes the risk is.
I agree, and that was my point all along, Linda, is when you mix these things up, when you try to cover everything, in one policy,
you lose the
you're
specificity.
and you're somewhat diminishing the ability and the usefulness and the reliability of the other modes of moving around, which is sometimes an absolute necessity. And I think we've seen some of the challenges with the e-bike. So, all right, so we've got the amended motion on the screen, which is move to approve the current adoption of the Toronto Community Housing Corporation TSHC electric mobility device e-device policy, with a more in-depth review to come back to the board in Q1 2027. And as part of that review, I suspect staff will deal with the safety issues associated with the e-bike. All right, so moved by Councillor Crisanti, seconded by Linda. All in favor? That is approved. All right, with all in favor, be it resolved that the Toronto Community Housing Corporation electric mobility device, as amended, is approved. All right, we'll now move to a closed session. So, Karen, I'll give you a minute or two to conclude this and take us in camera. I need a motion to move into closed session. Be it resolved that the Toronto Seniors Housing Corporation move into closed session under section bylaw 1/2021, section 4.19, subsection 1B, 1J, and 1L. May I have a mover and a seconder, please?
So move, Brenda.
Moved by Brenda, seconded by Jim. All in favor? That is approved. Okay, Karen, over to you.